Hello, everyone. Welcome to She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. You guys know I always ask you that before anything else. On today's show, we're going to be talking about whether or not Arsenal is ready to win the Premier League. That is the big question. And I have a special guest today with me. I have the judge himself, Lee Judges. Everybody say hello, Lee. He's been on the channel before, but I'm happy to have him again. Lee, how are you? How are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm really good. Thanks, Jess. Thanks for having us on. Looking forward to this one. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. I don't remember what we talked about last time you were on the channel. It was so long ago. So we have to make it more often so that I
Yeah,
can remember what we spoke about. Because I don't
100%.
remember.
Like,
You guys, I got the chance to go watch Arsenal in preseason, and I actually saw Lee in LA, which is so funny. Like seeing people from the UK in like my neck of the woods is so weird. It was weird to me. I was like, why are they here? Usually I see you guys like around the Emirates or whatever. So it was fun. Did you enjoy LA? Did you love it?
Yeah, it was fantastic. The stadium, what a stadium, by the way. That was unreal. When you go there, you actually don't think it looks like a wall, doesn't it? You think, well,
Mhm.
Cecil was saying it because he'd been there before. Oh, it's amazing. And then when I see it, I said, well, that don't look that great. And then when you get into it, oh my word, it blows your mind away. But yeah, California was fantastic. The whole tour was great. But there's something special about California. I don't know what it is, whether it's the weather or Hollywood or whatever. But
Mhm.
everything about it was great. And obviously on the day, we put in our best performance, and it was lovely seeing you there as well, which was a nice surprise.
Yeah. That's everybody loves California. The people talk about LA like, oh, it's so busy, the traffic. Everybody ends up loving it in the end. So I'm glad you had a good time. I see some of you guys are in the comments already. I'm gonna go ahead and see who is here. Lloyd says hi, Jess and Lee. Boy says, oi, we got judges on. Hugo says, good morning, Jess. Good morning, Lee. Good morning to you as well. Nashville says, the worst airport in the country. You sound like a hater. You sound like a hater. LAX is not a great airport, but like you're hating. You really are. And Nashville also says, well, Houston is the worst, but LAX sucks. Fair enough. And so, yeah, you guys, I thought that it would be fun to kind of talk about the Premier League and if Arsenal are ready or not to win it. Because last season, I do think we felt like we were very, very close. To me, like all season, you're up at the top and then you fall at the last hurdle. We were very, very close. And Arsenal have now spent £200,000, maybe even more than that, on recruitment. They're 1 year older, 1 year wiser. And so I thought it would be, especially during international break, to talk about whether or not we are closer to where we feel like we should be. And to start the conversation, I wanted to ask you, where were you the last time Arsenal won the league? Were you there? Were you at home? What were you up to?
Oh yeah. Like obviously, like I was still playing football then, so I didn't get to as many games as I wanted to. But I so yeah, so obviously went to as many as I could, but not all the time. But like when you think about it, I was still playing uh, and getting money to play for football, playing football. Then that shows you how long ago it was. Like, you know what I mean? Where I won't say how old I am now to when it was there. So yeah, unbelievable. And uh, I'm going to probably say just from that time to now is probably the first time I believe that Arsenal can win the league. I didn't think we could win it last season, even with the points that we had and everything like that. I did think that, but this season I do think that we're equipped. Whether we're going to win it or not is another thing. But I think we've got all the tools to give it a right good go this time. So we had that period when we was taking on Man United, and I feel that I've sort of gone back a little bit in time. I feel that for the first time now, we've got a real chance of doing some big stuff over the next 2-3 years.
If I told you, like, let's say like went into the past, the day that we won the Premier League in 2004, the last time we did, and I said, you know what, Lee, in 2023, we still will have not won another Premier League. What would you have said to me? Would you have believed me or no?
No way. I said, if someone would have said, you know what I mean, because like there was no way that was good. at that stage, when you think about it, Jess, it's not that only we'd won the league, we'd actually won the league without being beaten. So unbeaten all the way through. So if someone turned around and just said you wouldn't win the league for another 21 years or even more, I would have said, no, you're bitter. I honestly felt that we would probably win it again for a couple more years or jostle with Man United. Or even Chelsea at the time, because if you remember rightly, that was the first season that Abramovich come into the fray. So we knew that we was going to get a challenge from Chelsea. So, but 21 years, no. But that just shows you how hard it is. When Liverpool won it back in the day, if someone said it took over them 20 odd years, you wouldn't have believed it as well. But considering where we was when that game finished, to not have won the league again is quite incredible, really. Unbelievable.
It
Thanks
is.
for reminding me.
It is. And I think it also puts into perspective that I know that Arsenal is a massive club and the expectation is to win trophies, but I do think it puts into perspective that every little win that we have, whether it's, against Bournemouth, last minute winner, Reece Nelson, or finally breaking a terrible winless record against Manchester City, you have to enjoy it because you just never know what football is going to throw at you. You have no clue, what's coming around the corner. You really don't. So I try to live in the moment as much as
Yeah,
possible because, you never know where Arsenal is going to be. Yeah, go ahead.
100%. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I'll tell you a little story. 2003, we lost the league on the last day to Leeds. We played in the FA Cup final at the Millennium Stadium. That was the last time I went to a cup final with my dad. Didn't know that at the time. We won it 1-0. I come out and I said to my dad, I'm a little bit down about it. I'm not really feeling it, we just won the league. And my dad turned around to me and said, enjoy it, son, because you never know when it's going to happen again. And I didn't really believe him at that sort of stage, but even through the success of Arsenal over the years and all through the years, if you look back, there has always been barren spells. And he said to me, just enjoy it. And 2 years later, we got to the final again against Man United. Obviously, won the title in 2004. Won the FA Cup against Man United. I think I enjoyed that a little bit more because it was against Man United. But then, obviously, the barren run ends there, And yeah, so I think you've got to enjoy every time you win a trophy. And I do now. If Arsenal win a trophy, I'll make sure that I milk it because you don't know when it's going to come again. And also last season, I know it ended in disappointment, but I milked every game last season. Some of the going away to grounds, winning, keeping the season alive, even in April, up till the end. And it was only like a couple of games at the end when they were dead rubbers. We haven't had that for a very, very long while. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. So enjoy it while you can because you just don't know.
What's the biggest reason, in your opinion, why we haven't won the league since then? The biggest reason.
Oh, the biggest reason is money. I think that Chelsea and Manchester City have come from never been real challenges, Jess, if I'll be honest, through the times that I've watched football. The odd trophy here and there for both clubs. All of a sudden, this domination from them, which was never expected. You would have expected it from Manchester United and Liverpool, of course. But just take them two teams out of that equation and all that money. Man United may have had a little dip and we might have been out to take over or vice versa or whatever, But I do think the investment of teams like that, particularly Chelsea, at that stage when we was getting dominant, I think we would have won it in 2005 if it wasn't for that great Chelsea and Mourinho side. Man United, to their credit, kept it going, and then this oil machine that's come along now, well oiled, I say, Manchester City, has changed it's changed everything, in football, and we've had to we're going up against, a tough opposition now. Like not only with the great players they got, but the financial clout and everything like that. So I think that would be the main reason. As I say, Manchester City would never really. When you look back at the Premier League history, they was up and down. I think they was in the third tier at one stage. So you would never have thought that they would challenge as a club like they have until that money come in.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think when it becomes more competitive and you're not in a position where you can spend the same, it becomes very difficult.
Mm.
And I think about how much we're spending now, and we know that we had issues moving from, not really issues, but financially things were
Yeah,
different moving from Highbury to the Emirates. And Arsenal has never had a window like Mikel Arteta has had. So I wonder if it's a little bit like we had one hand tied behind our back a little bit in terms of what we could spend and to try to compete. And so we ended up stabilizing as like a top four team. But being able to go to that next level and win the big trophies kind of eluded us a little bit because we
yeah.
just couldn't spend the same.
Totally agree, because I think when they budgeted for this and when they looked at it, the Chelseas and Manchester Cities weren't there. Obviously, like we moved into the stadium in 2006, so this would have all been planned and budgeted with the probably like the idea of like this is how we're going to compete with Manchester United and Liverpool, keep on the same sort of line as them. So I think that did when the financial power comes. Of course, also then when Manchester City come, Jess, not only we was financially tied with the stadium, they were taking our best players as well. Like putting in offers that we couldn't really turn down, and obviously because of the financial restraints and all that, we had to sell our best players. And you think about it. Probably Arsene Wenger done a fantastic job for those first 4, 5, 6 seasons, because if you have a look at some of those teams, how that got into the top four, I do not know. And you look at teams like Spurs now that have got a new stadium, then they have to sell their top players every season like Arsenal did. So I do think that was a massive thing as well. But again, it all comes down to finances. If we'd have stayed at Highbury, who knows what would have happened? But as everybody knows, the stuff we'd actually outgrown the stadium, if I'll be honest. Hard thing to say, but you know what? How many years is it now? Like I don't know how many years it is now. Quite a few. I've sort of I've let Highbury go now. I've let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Nashville makes an interesting point, saying that the fact that we forgot to buy a DM for a decade,
That could be
um,
another reason, without a
that
doubt.
was
You know what I mean?
because even though we didn't spend a lot, I think we could have bought just one.
Yeah, just one. One would have been nice. One would have been nice, especially with that year with Petr Cech. If we'd have signed I think a proper centre midfield player, we'd have had a chance. I'm not saying we would have won it, but we was in with a chance. But if you remember that season, Coquelin played really, really well, and
Mm,
Arteta, I remember it at West Brom, and both got injured on the same day, and out went our midfield, and I think we, that again, our chances went of ever challenging for the title.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I wonder if that's why Arteta decides to like stockpile DMs. He has three at his disposal now. He has Partey, Jorginho, and Rice. I
Yeah,
don't know if he was because he was playing DM for Arsenal under Arsenal.
that's a great point. So he realises probably how important that role was because he played it, and appreciates that role and appreciates what it brings. I don't think Arsene did, if I'll be honest, because do you know what? I don't know if he did or he didn't, just because he had at times, if you remember rightly, he had when we was really successful, he had Vieira,
Yeah,
Edu, Petit, Gilberto, and Ray Parlour that could play those positions.
yeah.
So he had put some of the best at some stage there. But yeah, I think that Mikel knows what he's doing in that midfield, and obviously played in there. And I think like if you, I don't know, you'd have to talk to him about that. But if you're a player in that position, I reckon you hold a little bit more esteem to that role than probably like the striker role, because he's left that a bit short over the years. So I don't know,
Yeah, we'll get into the striker conversation because I think that that's a big one. I can already see in the comments people are like, "What about a striker? What about a striker?" But What were your expectations at the beginning of this season? What did you want to see Arsenal accomplish this time around?
Challenging again. I think that's the main thing. I don't think you can ask for no more than that. Whether you can win it or not, that's a great thing. But I don't know if you remember, we done that live show the year before when I just come back from Orlando, and people were asking the question, where Arsenal finished, and I said second, and people laughed at me but I'd seen what I'd seen that season. I'd seen Saliba for the first time, and I felt that we was going to surprise a few because of that. I must admit, I didn't realise there was going to be a drop off from Liverpool and other teams, as Chelsea and whatever. But this season, I think that, listen, we was without doubt the second best team in the league last season, and at some stages the best team in the league. So for me, it is maintaining that and pushing Manchester City as much as we possibly can, and I think that we will do that, as you can see in the first few games. But last season was I think, if I'd be really honest, that a lot of us couldn't believe it at one stage that we was doing what we was doing, but with that comes pressure, and I think at the end of it, we've built a squad. I'm not saying a squad that's good enough to win it, but definitely a squad good enough to compete with the likes of whoever it will be, Manchester City and whoever.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody kind of, no matter if, I think everybody's feelings on Champions League depends on, I don't know, some people feel like we should get to the semifinals or final. I'm a little bit more like, we haven't been there in a long time. Let's relax. We haven't been there in a while. I still think, we have a good chance of getting like quarterfinals. We should definitely be getting out of our group, winning our group. But setting that aside, challenging for the Premier League again. This team is I think built for the league. Whether or not we're built for Europe, I think is different because the European game and league game is so different. But in terms of being able to get 3 points almost every single week, I think this team is built for that. So I was expecting a challenge as well. And one of my biggest things about challenging Manchester City again, or whoever's up there, whether it's Liverpool or whoever, was bringing in the right players to help us bridge the gap. At the end of the summer transfer window, when you saw what we had gotten, we got Timber in, unfortunate with the ACL injury, but Timber, Rice, Raya, and Kai Havertz. Did you feel as though those 4 players would help us bridge that gap?
Yeah, I did. I did think that they would do. Obviously, Timber being out was a massive loss. Didn't really know too much about him, Jess, but you only had to see after a couple of games how good he was, and that's been a massive blow to us. Could Timber win us the league? I'm not so sure. He could help us challenge for it. If I was to be really honest with you, I do think that the centre forward one, if we'd have gone and got a centre forward, I think that we could have been in a better position to challenge. So, well, I wouldn't say, you don't know. Listen, injuries have got, if you said to me, I'm playing, if Jesus, Martinelli and Saka could play every single game in the league, I think we'd have a very, very good chance. But you and me know that that's not going to happen. You need someone else to go in there. Now, Eddie's done a fantastic job for us over the last year and a half. And I just look at on Saturday's performance, Sunday. If you lose a player like Saka, yes, Jesus can go over to the right hand side, and I thought he was fantastic. Then we just lost something in that middle. Do you imagine if we had a top striker alongside those 2 players on Sunday? I think we may have come into it. Don't forget we had Martinelli out as well, but I think that just that one player up front just could take us over the line. I'll be really honest, and I say this all the time now. When I walked away at the end of the summer last season, and I was always saying, right, what position do we need strengthening? I didn't think the goalkeeper was an issue, but I felt that the number 9 was. And we've still not addressed that. And I think that if Arsenal are to, like even against Lons, if you look back at that game, it was a bit of an eye-opener because of the quality of team and what we're saying about the Champions League and all that. But we had enough chances to win that game. And if you don't take your chances, And you look at the Man City game this week, this game there. How many chances was there? 2 or 3 in the whole game.
Yeah.
Fortunately we took one. So you can't, when you're at that real top elite games, as you go deep into the Champions League, you got to have a killer, I think, and that would be the one thing I still don't think we've addressed.
Yeah, no, I think I'm on board with the getting a number 9 for sure this season. But, looking at how many goals we scored last season and how I interpreted the end of last season, which was my feeling on last season why we didn't win, was because one, we crumbled mentally when Saliba wasn't there and we couldn't defend properly. I thought the gaps got bigger. I thought we didn't keep our shape as well. I thought we were really susceptible on the counterattack. And we really suffered once Saliba was gone. Like, that was it. And so even though we were scoring loads of goals, like even against Southampton, as poor as we were, we still scored 3 goals. We went to Anfield and scored 2. Not many teams do that. We went to West Ham and scored 2. So I felt goals, we were fine. Maybe it's something we need to look at in the future. But this season, I wanted to see an Arsenal team that took defending a little bit more serious and made sure that we got more clean sheets. The clean sheets at home, the lack of clean sheets at home was, you can't have your home ground cannot not be a fortress. It has to be somewhere where people feel like they can't get anything. And at the beginning of this season, I did feel as though, ooh, have we fixed it? Have we addressed that? I was watching us against I think it was Fulham. I was like, we haven't we haven't fixed it. We haven't fixed it. So I think we were opposite there. You were more concerned about the attack and taking the chances when you get them. And I was more concerned about the defense. Now, what if I told you that we've only scored 1 less goal at this stage than we did last season? Does it feel like that? Or
No,
does it feel like
no.
we lack goals?
No, I don't. I don't think that we lack goals. I don't. When everybody's fit, Jess. You know what I mean. When
Mm,
everybody's there, I don't think that we lack goals. And you could make a great point about the defending, And I think that last season, I know when Saliba was out, but I also think Tomiyasu was a massive loss as well, because I
yeah.
think that he would have come in and bridged that gap a little bit better, like he has done this season. So that was massive. And I agree with you. When you go to Anfield, you get 2 goals. I'm not saying you expect to win, but not a lot of teams get 2 goals, and if teams come to the Emirates and get 2 goals, you expect them to probably get the points as well. But I just think that if you look at certain games last season and also this season, like there were chances to, like for instance, the Tottenham game. We're 1-0 up. If Jesus buries that, it's 2-0, and I think then it's a different game. You know what I mean? So sometimes people go, the defence lets you down, but we've missed chances in big games.
Mm-hmm.
And also, even when I look back at that first few games, I don't know, and this is my problem going with Mikel going into the rotation and the squad, because he's not done it before, and I think he's going to need to learn on the job. As I say, I don't really understand why Gabriel wasn't playing in those first few games, because I think that was
It's a mystery.
a mystery. You know what I mean? Look at him in the last few games. He's been a colossus back there for us. Like, why wasn't he playing in those first few games? And I think that since he's come back into the team, I believe his first game back into the team was Everton or someone like that. Look at we've been a little bit more consistent with our defending. When you've got a partnership like Saliba and Gabriel, I don't understand why you would want to change that or change the style a little bit. But I get it that he's trying to get squad rotation in and things like that, And I don't think I think you're dead right. I think the issue of goal scoring last season was never there, because it was spread around all the time. But already this season, Jess, we've had Martinelli out for a few games. Now Saka for a few games. Who's going to step up and do that? Like, Trossard's done well when he's come in, but he's injured at the moment as well. Now we're relying on Eddie to score the goals. Now I think Eddie has done fantastic, as I said, fantastic well. But is he going to score the goals against Manchester City? Is he going to get the goals against Real Madrid? Is he going to get the goals against PSG or a Manchester City in the Champions League? That's my issue. And I'm not saying that if we bring in somebody that's going to do it as well. You know, maybe we didn't go for the forward because it wasn't available. I don't know, but I just feel that what was the game? Like the game against Lons, you know what I mean? Right, we 2-1 down, 20, 25 minutes to go. Never looked like scoring, Jess. You know what I mean? Never looked like
Yeah.
scoring. I know Saka wasn't there and Martinelli wasn't there, but that's when you need someone to come in and say, do you know what? We're missing this player, we're missing that. I'm going to be the man now. And I think that's where we lack a little bit, like, you know.
Yeah, I think it's X factor. I think
Yeah.
you want teams to be scared of you, and a lot of times that comes from a striker. I think, there's certain teams that we've played against in the past where literally just the sight of their striker would scare me, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you need a little bit of that because as a team, obviously they're going to be afraid of what we can do as a team. But when you have an individual, I think like like a Haaland or something like that, I just think it gives you that extra. Even if we stop the team, we can't stop this guy. Like, as if
Yeah.
they get one chance, he's going to put it away. So I definitely hear that because we don't have that additional layer. As a team, we're fine. But X Factor, we're missing that, especially if there's no Saka or Martinelli. Now, in the comments, people are asking about the striker situation, and we've spoken quite a bit on this channel about whether or not Ivan Toney was the type of striker that gets you over the line. If we were to add him in January, does that increase our chances a lot to win the league? There's, maybe a little bit of, is he that much better than Jesus? Because he's only scored 3 more non-penalty goals than Jesus. Is he young enough? Is he a star enough? Should we just wait for an Osimhen? What are your thoughts on it? I have thoughts, but I want to get yours first because you want a striker. So is Ivan Toney the guy for us?
I don't know if the truth be known. I'm not 100% sure, but I tell you, the only thing I say with Ivan Toney is he's better than Eddie, and that's the difference. You know what I mean? Like, so he's not better than Jesus. I don't think that he is. But for me, like, Eddie can play, as I say, like, can play wide left. Jesus can play wide left. He can play wide right or down the middle. I think it's going to be very hard just to find a better front three than Martinelli, Saka, and Jesus. If you look at all three of them, when they're on fire, when they're playing, Arsenal are hard to stop because, as you say, like, you can get it from one player or the other, and they've all got different things, but they all work together, and it works very, very well. But as we've said, they're not available all the time. But I look at it and go, right, okay, where can we improve there? Well, unfortunately, we can improve on Eddie. So would Ivan Toney going in there, would that help? I think it would. I don't really like it when people compare strikers and whatever to teams like when they play for Brentford, because Brentford, you're not going to get as many chances as you do at Arsenal, like, so when you look at his chances, he's still scoring goals there, like, and penalties, I'd take them away, but I do like Ivan Toney. I do like the way he plays and what we need, and he also gives us a plan B. I don't think we've got that at this moment with all of our players. You have a look at Eddie, he's not bad in the air, but he's not exceptional. He's not great at his hold-up play. So they're the sort of things that I would come in there, like, and listen, when we say, like, oh, we're going to get better than Jesus or better than Eddie, and there ain't a lot out there. That's why they're so hard to get and whatever. You think about it, Spurs just got £100 million for a player that's in his 30s now, and with 1 year left of his contract. I know he's a brilliant, I'm not saying that he isn't, but when you think about it, 100 million for a 30-year-old with 1 year in his contract, that's how difficult it is to get a goal scoring striker. So Ivan Toney, does he improve our starting 11? I'm not so sure, but does he improve the squad going forward? 100%.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was saying that with Ivan Toney, he improves the floor of the team, like you said, because you remove Eddie and you bring in him, you're a better squad. But does he necessarily take you to the next? Like, is he gonna be like when Manchester City brought in Haaland? Probably not. I don't think he's that good. I think he's just that level below. But Arsenal he seems quite interested in coming to Arsenal. I don't know what Arsenal's feelings on him necessarily are, but when we start talking about January transfer windows and things like that, like, mind you, we're talking about the January transfer window. Every single show I do, people want to talk about January, and we are in the beginning of October. We are nowhere near there yet. And we've still yet to see Martinelli, Saka, and Jesus play together. Yet.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it.
I
So
haven't seen it, no.
we haven't seen it. So we kind of have to wait a little bit longer to see where we're at. But in January, typically, if you go out there and you bring somebody in, it's because they're going to help you meet a goal that you had at the beginning. And so Arsenal, I guess, have to decide if they get there and they feel like we don't have goals, whether or not Toney, adding him to the starting 11, is going to be the difference maker. I think that's the only reason why you get somebody like him and not wait until the summer. So we have to see, but people are talking about it, and I'm not convinced that we have to do it necessarily in January, but I do think we, like you said, we need a star striker like within the next 12 months.
That's a great point, Jess. I'll be honest with you. If Arsenal don't make that signing, I wouldn't be like devastated. Oh, that shows no ambition, no this, no that. I hear what you're saying there, like, but I think that it could make a massive difference. Now, when you're going out and buying, this is my thing when I always going about the goalkeepers, is that you've got a very, very good goalkeeper in Ramsdale. When it come available to sign another goalkeeper, not necessarily need, or when we've done it. So I'd like to see that same energy used if the forward comes along. If there is a forward about and he's available, let's go and get him, because I think that it does improve us as a team. Not by a great deal. Is Raya improved Arsenal by a ballparking? We're going to go and win the league now since we put Raya in goal. No. I don't think Toney will do the same up top, but what it will do is give us better strength going forward, and I think we could put us in a better position than if we didn't go and sign him. But who knows? This is where these decisions are going to be really, really important. What they do. Obviously, there's budgets and things like that, but there are a few players in the team, Jess, or in the squad that are not really contributing at the moment. That would be able to give us some funds to get someone in that could contribute.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing obviously a lot of people are talking about Eddie, and also Emile Smith-Rowe is being linked to a move away to Newcastle. Yeah. So there's players that we could move on. Oh, I think we lost Lee. Okay, no, you're back.
I'm back.
There are some players that we could potentially look at and move on and bring in new players. But in January, that is so difficult to do. So that's why the summer window was super important. So what we have now, the club has to have felt like this was enough to meet the goals. And right now, I think because we haven't seen a clicking midfield, that's a big one. And then also the striker situation. And Ian makes a good point that we haven't seen Partey, Rice, and Odegaard. We've not seen them play together this season. We kind of saw them at the end of the game against Manchester City and in the Community Shield, but that's it. Is that our best midfield for you, Lee?
Oh, you can see that, Jess. You can see it a million miles off on Saturday. I know it's only Sunday, but as soon as Partey come on, I felt Arsenal went up a level in that game. Last 20 minutes, Partey makes playing midfield easy. He makes it look easy. He actually, I look at him and I think, do you know what? I think I could do that role, and that's how easy he makes it. I think Rice. I don't know how everybody feels about him at this moment, but he's just blown me away how good he actually is. I think he can do everything. He's consistent. I think playing him in the role that he played when Partey come on, or playing two players pivots and then letting Odegaard do it and him bombing on like he did, I think it's frightening. I think it's frightening. But the one thing that is a big worry for that is, I guess, is Partey's never quite fit enough all the time, But I do like that three. I think that if it goes on and is allowed to develop, because of injuries, let's say that they all stay fit. I think Arsenal will come very, very close to that midfield. I don't think there's a better midfield in the league than that. I'm not saying there is a worse, that it's like, Manchester City's on would be, once their players are fit, would probably argue that there is that as well. But I would be very, very happy going into every Premier League game with that three.
I mean, just speaking about Declan Rice, like people that are on the channel often know that on player rating days, we spend lots of time talking about this guy. He has been probably our best and most consistent player this season, I think. Um, and for him to step in and relish the opportunity to be our big player, that's something I've been waiting for a long time. He doesn't look afraid to play the big matches and be the difference. And to do that from day one is just like he's fine being a 100 million pound player because he thinks he is. He thinks he's that guy, and he is. I think I saw a little clip of like Rio Ferdinand had texted Declan Rice after the game against Manchester City and said, like, fair play. Nobody's talking about the price tag. And Declan Rice was like, of course not, but I've been doing this since I was at West Ham. And so he's very comfortable being a big game player and a big player for Arsenal and wanting to be the difference. I think when we played against Lens and everybody's level was really low, his level was still very high. And that's what you need. You need that consistent player in the midfield that's going to give you a 9 every single game, be the difference. And he's going to be the reason why we win big matches, I think.
Yeah, I do. And I think that one of the great things is that, why he feels comfortable, because there was the plan that he knew that he was coming in. And I think that he's adapted to it really well. He knows he's going to play most weeks because, there's obviously been talk and conversations when he was signing and things like that. And I just think it's not easy to come from a club like West Ham, and no disrespect to West Ham, to a team that, like Arsenal, where you're expected to win every game. Whether you're good enough to win every game is a different thing, but that's the expectation of Arsenal Football Club. You are expected to win every game. Where you're not at West Ham, and to have that mentality to do that and come straight in, like breeze into it, I think it's been fantastic. But as you say, the most impressive performance, you're right, Jess, for me was the Lens one, because I felt that, you're right, everybody was off point that day, let's be honest, most of them, but he wasn't. If he wasn't at his best, it didn't show, because he was working hard, he was doing this, doing that. And so I've been really, really impressed with him, and at the end of the day, I think one of the great things, I think he's cheap at 100 million, and I'll tell you why he's cheap at 100 million, because he can play two roles. He can play that box to box 8, that's 50 million pound player, and he can do the holding midfield role as 50 million pound player. So you've got a 100 million pound player, but can do two roles fantastically well. And I think that's what makes it, I don't say cheap, but you know what I mean. It makes it worthwhile, because if you buy someone like a Casido, for instance, he can play that role, but you're paying 80, 90 million pound or 100 million, even more than that when they pay for him to just play one role. I think Declan Rice can play two roles. And I'll tell you what, I think even eventually he could even go and play central defence in his latter part of his career. So, this is a guy that I think has got it all. And I'm going to be really honest, I knew he was good. I didn't realise how good he was.
I think all of us probably, except for maybe a couple people that have been talking about, there have been some people on socials talking about him for like 2 years. So I want to give them the credit. Like, there were some people that were like, we have to get him. This was before the hype. We have to get this guy. And I couldn't see it. Like, I was like, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. He's much, much better than I could have ever imagined. So kudos to recruitment on that, because he has been spectacular. And Yo-Yo makes an interesting point about kind of ending the season strong, which is something that we've struggled to do the last 2 seasons. Yo-Yo says Pep didn't find his best 11 until the final third of last season. Actually, pretty much after they played against us in February, they stopped playing Bernardo Silva at like that weird left back role. And then they started playing the four center backs at the back. And that's when they really kicked it into next gear. You start the season with your preferred 11 and finish with your best. Maybe, not using Partey as much at the beginning of the season, not using Jesus central, so much at the beginning of the season is a plan for Arteta to be as strong as possible at the end of the season. And that's probably my biggest question around whether or not Arsenal are ready to win the league. It's not so much about the team, because I think we had enough talent last season to win it if we had had maybe the mentality or the manager had gotten some of the decisions correct. Mikel has always been the main question for me. Is he ready to win the league? Can he get us over the line? I think the difference between Liverpool doing the things that they've been able to do is not just about Van Dijk and Alisson. It's about Klopp as well. So speaking a little bit about Mikel Arteta, have you seen any growth from him from last season to this season that gives you like a little bit of confidence that maybe we're ready to do something big?
That's a great question. It's a great question because I think that, there are question marks still about Mikel, even though we've done fantastically well. The only thing that I can really say that I think that I will give him the backing of it is the way we've played Manchester City in the last two games. I felt that they were the better team. We was open against them too much, and they deserved to beat us in the last two games. But I think he's learned from that, Jess. I really do. I think the Community Shield, he went in with a different sort of format, different attitude, got the result. Bear it be a draw, but it's still a draw. And we'll take that at the Etihad whenever it is in May or whatever. And I think that this game here, he learned as well. People turn around and say, oh, yeah, but they had their best players out. Well, we had but when we played at Man City at the Emirates last season, no Jesus, no Partey, but no one was saying about that to us. You know what I mean? Like, oh, so you play what's in front of you. I think that we are learning. My problem with Mikel, and it's a big problem with me, I'm not criticising him here. I'm not sure he's quite ready to navigate Champions League and Premier League and rotate and things like that, and I think that's what you're going to do. It's a great point, you made there, was where your team's not going to be the best at the beginning of the season because you're rotating a lot more because you've got a lot more games, like once you get to February, March, April, it's still difficult and intense games, but there's not as many as what you've got now. These 6 games in the Champions League to be fitted in 3 months, rotating with the League Cup as well. And then in December, more games than anybody's used to, so there's got to be that sort of side of it. And of course, Arsenal were playing last season. Europa League, we didn't really mix that too well, so I think that is going to be the problem, when you say Jurgen Klopp and Pep, sometimes fine lines get you over it. I will say this, and I'm pretty sure it's a record because you only allowed 5 subs this season. On Sunday, all of his 4 substitutions that he brought on contributed to a goal. Now you can call that luck. You can call that maybe good managing as well. So I see that's very, very important. That I think at the end of the day, if you be really honest about it, Pep made his substitutions, they didn't work. Arteta made his substitutions and work. So if you would say it, we're probably 1-0 to Arteta against Pep on that sole game. You've got to do it over the course of the season when there's going to be problems and whatever, And I'm with you on that, I think that Mikel might come up short this season. Is that enough to say, right, he's not good enough? I'm not sure. I think it's going to be really important for where he goes now. I think he's, as I say, he's been ruthless with the goalkeeping situation. I'm not 100% sure that's the right decision, but again, I'll back him because he's proved what he can do. But I do feel at the end of it, that will be a very, very key thing. And if we don't get over the line, I think then maybe people might question it.
Yeah, no, to me, he's just the biggest part of the jigsaw. I think if you take Klopp and you give him this squad, he wins something with it. I really do believe that with my heart. I do. Because I'm not seeing a team that lacks very much. I don't see it. It's very, very good team, very talented. And so I just think it's the difference between, I think one of the bigger mistakes or one of the bigger disappointments for me was Arsenal going into the game against Manchester City, which is it's a must-win game, but it's also a must-not-lose game. when you're going up against Manchester City, you have to win the home game because you're going to go to the Etihad and you need to nick something. It's too difficult. You can't lose to them twice. And
No,
what frustrated me was just I felt like we went out there to play our way instead of going out there a little bit more humble. Like I felt like we went out there to show that we're on the same level as them instead of trying to get the points. And we got slapped at home. For me, that was it. I had a complete meltdown on the channel, and people were like, "How could you say that it's over?" And I'm like, "Because you can't lose twice to them. We're going to go to the Etihad. It's going to be very difficult for us to get something there. Their record is immaculate at the Etihad, so we needed to win there. And we needed to win at home, and the psychological impact of that game, I think you saw. They stood up taller. We got a little shorter, you know? And I thought a lot of it was because Mikel wasn't pragmatic enough. I just wanted to see him be a little humble and not go out there like gun ho. I thought we did the same thing at the Etihad and we got slapped. And the decision to continue to play Rob Holding when we had other options. People were saying we didn't have a single other option, but then we play at St. James with Kivior and we're much better. So those are the main questions for me, is whether or not he can get the rotation correct, whether he can be pragmatic when he needs to, and be proactive about things like, if we don't have Saka, what are you going to do? If you don't have so and so, what are you going to do? Are you going to make the right decision? You're going to double down on guys that aren't working. That's the difference for me between winning the league or not. Really, it's Mikel to me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Do you know what? I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on what you're saying. I think that it may be that he learnt on this one because he brought in Jorginho. People were sort of thinking, "Wow, what you're doing there," but it worked. And you're right. I think that his decisions on Sunday, just if we'd have lost that game, I think he'd have got a lot of criticism because of what team that he played.
mm,
But what he done is it worked for him. So you have to say, yeah, that's brilliant. But I get that what you're saying last season. The Rob Holding thing, I think that you could see that it wasn't going to work. Kivior come in and done exceptionally well, as you say. Jorginho coming in when it was too late, if I'll be really honest.
yeah.
So little things like that. And I do believe that he's still learning. But also, I will say in his defence,
Mm,
people keep saying to me, "Oh, you bottled it at Arsenal." This is a team that went on and won the treble. There was some team last year to go up against. You know what I mean? So mistakes can be forced on you by what they were doing, by the pressure that they were putting on. Because realistically, Jess, if you'd be really honest, and I think even a couple of Man City players said it. I remember the game. If they'd have lost to Liverpool at home that day, I think Arsenal would have won the league without, even if they could
mm,
afford a couple of games. But what they'd done was they made sure that we couldn't afford a couple of defeats. But if they'd have lost to Liverpool that day, or even drawn, we knew that we could go to Anfield and get a point, and it would have been a good point. But they made it that we had to go to Anfield and win. They did that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And we got a draw, which we haven't got for so many years, and everybody was disappointed. But when you really look back on it, I, you know, I don't think Manchester City give themselves credit, and everybody else gives them credit for actually what pressure that they did put on. Because if they'd
Yeah.
have lost one of those games, that pressure would have been off. But they kept us right at it. And listen, that's what good teams do. And if I'll be really honest, Mikel has never been in a run before, like as a manager winning the league, what it's like, and certainly those players haven't. Now all those players know what it's like to win the league, or sorry, not win the league, but to challenge for it. So now, hopefully, that they can learn from that, and that could take us one foot further. And that is down to Mikel as well. I
Yeah.
100% agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the game against Manchester City was a huge indicator of Mikel understanding what the job, what
Yes,
we're going to
yes.
need to do. We weren't trying to play our best football. We weren't trying to make any sort of point. He didn't overthink it. We didn't try to win it in the first 20 minutes. We didn't overpress. We conserved energy,
Yeah.
and then we blitzed them in the last 20 minutes. We kept it close. We defended really, really well. And so, yeah, Arsenal are not as free flowing, and we're not connecting as many passes and whatever. But off the ball, I think we're much better. And in order to win the title, I think you have to be a very, very good defensive side.
Yeah.
I think you can afford to score a little bit less goals, but what you can't afford is to be giving away goals like we were last season. And so seeing that we're better defensively, and we still have yet to see our best midfield play together consistently or our best front three play consistently, I think we're in a good place. It's still not clear 100% if we're going to 100% win it. But I think we've made strides to be as ready as possible to make that happen, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's a great point you make. There's a saying, isn't there? Football forwards win matches, defenders win your leagues. You know what I mean? And I think that's a great point. And I do see that. Dare I say it? Are the players and Arteta have learned? You know what I mean? Don't make mistakes against City. Don't go gun ho against them. Let's keep it tight. At the end of it, is it a disaster if we don't lose the game? But make sure we don't lose it, but can we win it? And I think that there was a little bit of that in that game where we defended really, really well. Listen, Haaland didn't get a kick in that game, and that's something that you have to behold. What was more important for me, Jess, is that when he brought on some more attacking options, Pep, we still nullified that with some good defending. Ben White was outstanding on that right side of the defence. What he done then was that maybe they would target Shinchenko in the last 10, 15 minutes, took him off and put in Tomiyasu, and he does exceptionally well. I think, as I say, I said in an interview I'd done that he was spot on, Mikel, in every decision, and he was. And it's lovely, isn't it, to be spot on against them and get everything right, but he's going to have to do that more often as well, because there's going to be games where it's going to be like a different scenario where a team's going to come and have no ambition to play against us, yes, and we've got to be able to break that down and work out how we're going to do that. So there's going to be all different scenarios that are going to come in. But when you play those big teams and teams like that, even at home, be like that. And I'll tell you what, I don't mind that it wasn't as entertaining as the 2-1 defeat a couple of seasons ago on New Year's Day. It wasn't as entertaining as the game we lost to them 3-1 last season, because we won this one. And that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, when you walk out of that stadium, I don't think any fan was worried that we didn't have as many shots as normal, or we done this and done that. What was the most important thing was we won the game. And that's what it's about.
I agree. So to wrap up things here, I just want to ask you one last question. If Arsenal were to win the league this season, who would have been our most important player and why?
That's a nasty question to leave me on, that one, Jess. A nasty one to leave me on. Who would you go? Do you know what I'm gonna say? Saliba. I think all the other players, apart from Rice, so it'd be out of Saliba and Rice for me. All the other players were there last season towards the end. Saka, your Martinelli's, your Jesus, Odegaard. The two that weren't through injury were Saliba, and of course Declan Rice weren't there. So I'm tempted to say Declan Rice. I see a few people are putting up Declan Rice. So, but I'm going to stick with Saliba. I think that I'm convinced, Jess, that if he'd have stayed fit, I think Arsenal would have won it last season.
Yeah. I mean, Saliba said it himself, and so did Gabriel Jesus. They were very unapologetic about just being quite transparent there and saying if Saliba had been there, we would have won. I would say I also agree with Saliba, but I do think Rice is going to end up being the player that pushes us over if we do get there's something about him, I think, that's going to get the edge.
I agree.
If you don't have him, you can put Partey in there, but thing you're worrying about, Partey cannot do the same things out of possession that Rice can do. That's not to shade Partey at all, like in terms of what he does on the ball, but we've seen against Manchester City that was a super performance. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Saliba, but also Rice ends
yeah,
up being the most important players if we win the league. And yeah, so hopefully we do it. But
yeah,
again, like you said at the beginning, when you're going up against somebody like Manchester City, it's so difficult to say, like, you have to do it. I think what we want to
yeah.
at least be able to say is that we were in it within a point, 2 points, something if we don't win it. Right?
Exactly that. I'm with you on that. Exactly that. Like if we're 10, 15 points behind, that's a different story. But if we go to the end against them and we just come up short, I can live with that. But not if we're 10, 15 points, and certainly not just if one of the other teams above us as well. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that would be different, you know. So I'm saying a good challenge and everything there. And I the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking maybe Rice would be like the. Do you remember like years ago, Manchester United were coming close and close, and then they signed Eric Cantona, and he was the one that took them over the line.
Mhm.
Maybe like that could happen with Declan Rice. So it's either one of them, like, you know.
I agree. Well, you guys, we have definitely had an amazing show. There's 200 of you guys in here, which is amazing. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're just joining, you can always just rewind and watch from the beginning because we did the whole thing. We did the whole hour of whether or not Arsenal are ready to win the Premier League. Lee, this was so much fun. So nice to have you on the show. Everybody loves you, and you're an amazing guest. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on to the show.
No problems whatsoever. We'll do it again soon as well, like, yeah.
Yeah. You have anything going on special? Do you have anything you want to shout out or?
No, we're just having a little bit of, with international break and everything like that. It's just like a little chill out week this week, like, before getting back onto it. And, it all builds up for Chelsea next week, doesn't it? Like,
Mhm.
so do I like these international breaks? No, but like you do get a little bit of a break. So nothing really special going on at this moment in time, but looking forward to starting up again next week when it's what a game to come back to, by the way. What a game, you know what I mean? It's one of the best games of the season at Stamford Bridge. So looking forward to that.
Me too. So you guys, all of Lee's information is obviously like his channel is linked in the title, and it's going to be in the description, so you guys can check out his stuff. And like I told you guys on Monday, Dan Potts will be on the channel for the podcast. So make sure you guys are subscribed and all that, so you get all the notifications. But we're gonna end it there. You guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, get in the comments after, and let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling around whether or not are ready to win the league. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh, pinned in the chat is the show that I did with Colleen last night. So that's more of an international break pod. It feels like international break. We're playing games. I'm asking her crazy questions. After this, you should definitely tune into that. So yeah, make sure you guys click on that, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.